So maybe it's too nice today. Everybody's out playing. Hmm. Well, hello, Becky.
Hi, George. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I don't know if we have anyone else here today.
Well,
Yeah.
Ruby is here.
Oh, I didn't hear him or see him.
There he
There.
is.
Hey, Zuby.
How are you doing today, George?
Pretty well. And I will do better as soon as I see another board member.
Linda said she would be 15 minutes late.
Yes. And I was expecting that Jody was going to check in, even though she is traveling at the moment. I thought she was going to call in from Colorado. She's not in Europe yet. She'll be in Europe in a couple days.
And Pierre was not going to be able to be here today. Is that correct? Or she was going to be late?
That's correct. She will not be here.
Okay.
So,
I'll text Jody and see what I can get.
Zuby, is that a new hat you've got?
Oh no, I've had this one for a long time. You can't. This is the last of the Santa Fe whites. You can't. They don't make this hat anymore.
Okay.
The closest hat I can get to this is a Marfa.
Is it what?
A Marfa, like Marfa, Texas.
Oh, uh-huh. Well, gee, I wonder, do I need a quorum to open the meeting? Or
I think we do.
can I start a meeting without opening it?
Let's see.
I think you can start. We just can't take any action.
Yeah, we can't do anything.
Okay, let's just say hello. And we will just, and I'll welcome you who are here. And I don't even have to adopt the agenda. I can just start it.
Yeah, I think you can't do, we can talk about things, but we can't do any kind of action thing.
Okay,
So we can't even go into closed session until we have another person, right?
Right.
yeah. So
I could
maybe,
start with my reports on employee of the month and stuff like that.
okay, well,
I just heard from Jody. She said that she had emailed George and said that she could not make the meeting.
oh, okay,
So we're waiting for Linda then.
right. Okay, so maybe indeed, Becky, how about if we start with you and you give your report?
Okay, happy to do that.
Thank you.
All right, so let's start with the April Pass It Forward Award. Get myself organized here. And for April, this is awarded to Amanda Rivera de Garcia, who is a literacy volunteer, and she was nominated by Irma Cruz from Kids Campus, who says Amanda is very kind and she always makes sure that more students have access to ESL classes. And then also to Francine Fisher from the Fine Woodworking Program. She was nominated by Vaughn Hegman, the Director of Accessibility Services, who says, I'm honored to pass it forward to Francine Fisher. I have known Francine for more than a decade. During that time, I've experienced her as a person of discernment, thoughtfulness, attention to detail, and integrity. Francine shows up in authenticity, always true to herself. She is skilled in her area of woodworking and is generous with her knowledge. Francine is a stickler for safety. In a program where serious injury is an ever-present possibility, she works diligently to maintain a safe lab environment for our students, and she is always looking out for them. So congratulations to both Amanda and to Francine, very well deserved.
Yes.
Yes, both, you know Francine, I'm sure, George.
Yes.
And the WOW-gram for April goes to Gail Torres from Adult Education, who was nominated by Kristen Krell, also from Adult Education. And Kristen says, I, along with 6 other staff in the Adult Education Department, nominate Gail Torres for the WOW Award in recognition of her outstanding leadership, knowledge, and commitment demonstrated consistently here for over 25 years. She's retiring in April and is well deserving of this recognition. Despite at times challenging circumstances, Gail has served as a steady, devoted, and level-headed leader in the AE department, and we just couldn't have functioned without her. She shares her detailed knowledge of the adult education system with her peers, trains and supports new staff members, responds promptly to data requests, provides guidance in identifying performance goals for all AE programs, and responds to a wide range of student needs, always with patience and kindness. She is unfailingly friendly in her interactions with others and maintains a high level of integrity in all that she does. The adult education community will truly miss her and the expertise that she brings to our field. So congratulations, Gail, on receiving the WOW-gram and also on your impending retirement. And thank you for all that you have done for Santa Fe Community College during your 25 years with the college.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for all you've done. Enjoy your retirement.
Okay, well, I will keep going then.
Yes,
So
thank
as I think you all know, we did lift our mask mandate right after graduation. So the way that we'd worded the publicity on this is that there's no longer a mask mandate in place. People are certainly welcome to wear masks anytime that they want to. And people can wear masks in class, and if instructors decide that it's better for everyone to wear a mask, we're not going to oppose anyone setting that stipulation. And again, we will review this on a steady basis, and if there's any need to change that mandate, then we will certainly change the mandate. And we have received a letter of concern. I think you noticed that there was a letter to the editor in the New Mexican they were sorry that we were lifting our mandate, but all of the other comments that I've gotten have been positive, and people were ready to move on with this. And just so to be clear, this also applies to Kids Campus. They are also moving forward with this, and that is in keeping with the guidance that they received from the early childhood team.
Right.
And so our task force will meet as necessary. We haven't been meeting very regularly because there's really not much to monitor. We have had a few cases on campus, but nothing, one or two every now and then, but nothing more than the low points that we've had before. So I feel like we're still doing a good job in encouraging vaccines and moving ahead with that.
And I would, let me just add, Becky, I would certainly support and congratulate you for continuing to monitor things and not in the least feel comfortable changing the mandate, because things are changing.
They are.
It's very hard. It's hard for anyone to predict what that's going to be like. So with new variants coming up, it may be necessary to reinstate a mask mandate. So feel confident in changing when necessary. Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Corey, I see that you're there, and I was going to see if you could do a little bit of the chess update for us, because I think you know a lot more of the particulars. The stuff that's on the report there is all stuff that you can peruse. It's all very high level. I made it through my presentation in New York with AACC. It seemed to go over pretty well. And so I'll let Corey give you more details about where we really are with the project.
Great.
All right. While I figure out why my camera again is not turning on, let's see.
You're not allowed to have that problem, Corey.
I know. All right, there it goes. Sorry about that. So I was going to give a presentation, but I'll just kind of cover some of the things that are happening at the moment. So all of this month, finance and HR teams have been testing various scenarios about Workday, through Workday. So for example, testing hiring a new employee, or adding a new position, or creating a new budget or cost center, things like that. It's been really intense. So the teams have been working on campus collectively. Additionally, they're working with Workday at the same time. So they're on campus in a room together going through these scenarios. They're interfacing with Workday and all of their colleagues from across the state. So it's been really intense. We should congratulate them because they've done a fantastic job. We are on schedule and it should all be completed by the end of this week. Workday was really impressed with how well our teams work together. And so it's really been fantastic. The next upcoming thing that we're working on is some customer confirmation sessions. So these are intended to really allow us, executives, other people who use the processes but weren't on the project team, to come in and get a picture of how those things are working. So all the teams will give us demonstrations. And so it's an opportunity for us to be supportive and review those processes. It isn't intended for us to sort of redesign. So if we're like, oh my gosh, I wanted it to work that way, that's not the intention. We might be able to suggest tweaks or corrections. It's also not an opportunity for us to review the data, because we've put data in, but it's not the gold build yet. So that's our next function. Additionally, the integrations teams, which is, IT people, are getting ready to build I think it's about 70 integrations. And so that's coming up this summer. The data conversion folks are getting ready for their third round of data. And, as we've come through this, we've found all of the things that are wrong with our data. And so teams are having to respond and clean up things that are creating problems for us. So we're doing a lot of that work. It often requires overtime for people have to work extra hours. It's very stressful. We just have to remember to keep reminding people how appreciative we are and supporting them in every way that we can. So that's kind of where we are. Any questions about that?
Yeah, so when you're talking about data that you discovered sort of was problematic, give us some example of that.
Well, so in some cases, the issue is maybe the way we pulled it was slightly off. And so we make corrections into how we've developed our programming. In other cases, we're finding like employees have the wrong supervisor in Banner. So we have to actually go and fix it in Banner, not in Workday, because we're going to pull the data 2 more times. So we want it to be corrected in the source. So it's that type of thing. One of the other big hurdles is that we're having to translate the data. So Workday doesn't have the same sort of data definitions that Banner does. So, we're having to take what we've got in Banner and translate it into Workday speak, or translate job codes and things like that to match what the other colleges use. So we're doing we're making a lot of changes to the way we handle data as well. Thank you.
Well, interesting. Fascinating process.
Yes, it's a lot. So thanks everyone.
Hopefully all worth it.
Yes, we hope so. Yeah, so far so good. Thanks. But not free of problems. I just want to make sure we don't think it's all roses. It's not,
Right.
But definitely we try and keep everything on track. And so far we're doing pretty well. We've got some areas where we're a little bit in the yellow, but not in the red. So we try to respond when we get those things.
That's fine.
Yeah, so
Okay.
thanks.
Very good.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for doing all that work. Extra work.
Yes, thank you, Corey. Corey has really been a leader in this project. And so I'm really happy to, that she's leading this for Santa Fe Community College. A couple of other things, I wanted to point out that Director of Assessment and Program Review, Mindy Watson, has been named the Change Management Work Stream Lead for the project. And as Corey pointed out, we're continuing on. So we're really trying to beef up the change management aspect of the project right now, as we're moving through the test phase with finance and HCM. So I will move on to student engagement and success. We mentioned this a little tiny bit last meeting, but we really didn't have all the details yet. But 3 Santa Fe Community College student teams are among the 15 finalists in the U.S. Department of Energy's Algae Prize competition. This event encourages participants to pursue ideas and solutions for real-world issues in the algae value chain. The finalist teams will pursue their proposed research projects and present their proposals to judges at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and then they'll present their research at the Algae Prize competition event in April of 2023. So congratulations to our teams. This is really top-notch work, and it's quite an honor to be recognized at this level.
Right. Now, Zuby, are you a part of that at all?
Yes. Yeah,
Zuby?
I'm part of the class, and I'm participating with one of the teams.
Okay. Thanks for doing all that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, for asking that. And Board Member Wilson, I don't have the names of all of the students and that were involved in this, but I was pretty sure that Board Member Wilson was one of them and on one of those teams. So that's sort of a special honor there. And it's just the program is great and has been really, their accomplishments have really grown over the last few years. And congratulations on that.
But by way of full disclosure, I should let you know, I was part of the one team that didn't get the final prize, go to the final prize. But the other teams have invited me to join them now, so.
Okay. Great.
Still an honor. We also have 8 creative writing students who read at the Santa Fe Literary Festival on May 21st. Thanks to the support and coordination from faculty Shuli Lambden, Kate McCahill, and Terry Wilson. They were able to attend a lunch and meet with writers, and we were able to secure, not we, our faculty were able to secure all access passes for the event for several of our students. This was really quite an honor too for our students to be able to participate at this level. This is a really top-notch event, the inaugural event for this conference, and I'm sure it will. It was already spectacular, but I'm sure it'll just continue to grow year after year. Film program student Daniel Peasley's film was selected by the New Mexico Film Office and Stowe Story Labs. His film is among 10 projects chosen for the first New Voices New Mexico Screenwriting Training Program for emerging New Mexican screenwriters. The Automotive Technologies program hosted a broken parts car show for students, faculty, and staff with prizes provided by Snap-on and Matco Tools, and 4th place to be awarded to the ugliest vehicle.
Oh, wow.
Lord only knows what that looked like.
Yeah, right.
Maybe we can get a picture. On May 14th, 335 students graduated an associate degree with an associate's degree and or a certificate. Alumni Monica Leyva, the chief nurse executive at Christus St. Vincent Medical Regional Center, provided the keynote address. This was our first in-person ceremony since before the pandemic. Maria Lourdes Estrada was the student speaker. It was a really very well attended event, very well done event. I think our students were so excited to be in person. Our faculty were excited to be in person, and it was just a really, really nice event. So thank you to everybody who put the event on, because it's always, there's a lot more that goes into it than what's always apparent. And thank you to all of our staff and students and board members for participating in the event. It was probably the most fun thing I've done all year. And then on May 17th, 65 students earned a high school equivalency certificate. The graduates successfully completed their high school equivalency exams in adult education. The keynote speakers were Eric Vasquez is the one-stop operator at the Northern Area Local Workforce Development Board and was previously the program manager. And also Erica Von Eckhout, who is the WIOA Director of Adult Dislocated Workers for Northern New Mexico. Josephine Valdez and Norma Elizabeth Martinez Jaramillo were the student speakers. So again, a very nice event. I was not able to attend this one, but the report back to me was that it was great. And this is, this is a really important milestone for these students, and we encourage them to keep going and to join the college in our regular credit programs. Santa Fe Community College has partnered with Santa Fe County to offer a free fiber optic technician boot camp that includes up to 80 hours of paid internship beginning May 31st. Students can earn 3 certifications from the Fiber Optic Association, the Certified Fiber Optic Technician, Certified Fiber Optic Specialist in Splicing, and Certified Fiber Optic Specialist in Testing and Maintenance. These credentials are recognized worldwide, and we are really happy to be able to offer these in conjunction with the county to be able to provide more training for students in this very needed area. The Cabinet Secretary for Early Childhood Education, Elizabeth Graginski, toured the kids campus during Teacher Appreciation Week. It appeared to me that she was looking around for every available space for students that we could possibly take into the program, because there's such a shortage of early childhood spots for children in Santa Fe that we're really working with her and with the city and the county to do whatever we can to increase early childhood education. The campus cupboard has relocated to the West Wing into room 305. The food pantry is new and improved with a dramatically expanded inventory, including fresh food, I'm told. The Kids Campus provided bilingual presentations on childcare for students and children and reviewed the childcare assistance process for student parents. The library offered pet therapy as part of their Reconnect series to support students, faculty, and staff at the semester's end. Under faculty and staff, the Title V program is funding registration for the Escala Educational Services course on culturally responsive teaching in STEM, which is for faculty at Hispanic serving institutions. So we are very happy to be able to provide this to all of our interested faculty. It's very high quality training. The college hosted forums with finalists for the Dean for the School of Business, Professional Studies, and the School of Trades and Advanced Technology and Sustainability. Under the community engagement, in response to the wildfires, the World Central Kitchen has again mobilized at Santa Fe Community College, collaborating with a culinary arts program led by Chef Jerry Dakin to provide meals. And that partnership also includes YouthWorks too, to provide the cooking and the distribution of the meals. So it's a great partnership, and we've gotten a lot of nice recognition, but boy, they have really, really turned out a lot of meals that have provided a lot of assistance to people from the fires. Thanks to a collaboration recommended by the late Javier Gonzalez, the Automotive Technologies Program is donating a vehicle to Christus St. Vincent for use by their physical therapy department. They will use it to teach people how to get in and out of a vehicle and how to load a walker or wheelchair. So this was a collaboration also with our welding students too, to build the car. It's really a very clever project. I think I'm really proud of our students and how we were able to provide this kind of training and work with the hospital to do all of this. Santa Fe Community College was a sponsor and director of the Energy Smart Academy. Amanda Hatherley served as a panelist during the Next Generation Water Summit. The School of Science, Health, Engineering, and Math offered a presentation with guest speakers from Presbyterian Healthcare Peer Opioid Project. The Legislative Finance Committee Education Analyst Connor Jorgensen and Senior Fiscal Analyst Nina Chavez met with me and a fairly large team of our college administration and toured Santa Fe Community College. We looked at the healthcare programs, sustainability programs, and really kind of talked a lot about potential for reform to the funding formula. One of the things that we would like to bring them back to have a special tour of Kids Campus. We were not able to fit that into the time constraints that we had that afternoon, but we really talked about childcare as another wraparound service that we would really like LFC to consider as they're working on the funding formula, because it is such an important service for colleges to be able to provide, and such an obstacle for students when we can't provide it, and it's an expensive thing. I think, we offer that. We don't receive money through our regular ING budget for childcare. So I think there's maybe the mistaken idea that it's a moneymaker for us, but as all of you on the board know, that is hardly the case. I am happy when we just don't lose too much money on it, because it's so important and we really do need to provide it. So we will continue those conversations. Connor is a former Santa Fe Community College dual credit student, so he has ties to the college and seems very interested in coming back and trying to help us in any way that he can. You can see all the recent publicity that we have in the next section there. We've really had a whole lot of attention from the media. I was on Richard Eads' show a couple of weeks ago, which is always kind of fun. The other thing that I want to mention, there was a higher education subcommittee meeting in Roswell last week. The focus of the meeting was really on enrollment, which I would have to say that's been the focus of probably the last 2 years meetings. All of the colleges, 4-year, 2-year branches have all experienced significant enrollment declines. I think one of the things too that really became the focus of the conversation is what is going on in high schools in New Mexico. So there have been a sharp decline in the number of students graduating. The graduation rates are good, but the actual numbers of students graduating are low. So there have been several hundred students, locally even, that are just really not accounted for, where they've kind of slipped through the cracks during the pandemic. We're not exactly sure. And so that will, of course, have a negative impact on our enrollment as we go forward. But it was, I think, an overall a positive discussion. And then we talked some about the funding formula and what we might look at working on during the upcoming interim session, including the I would say maybe a renewed emphasis on wraparound services that the legislature seems to have. We've been working on them for quite some time to do this, but they're really starting to really, I think, see the importance and the cost of providing high quality wraparound services to all of our students. So with that, and one thing I want to add to the upcoming schedule there, we are also going to begin to recognize Juneteenth as a federal holiday. And so the college will observe Juneteenth, which I believe is on June 20th. This was mostly a recommendation from the PDAC committee, but I think college-wide, and we talked about this a little bit with the board, it's something that we feel is important and that we want to acknowledge. So that will also be before we have the next meeting. So with that, Mr. Chair, that is my report. I am happy to answer any questions, and I see that Board Member Siegel has joined us. So we do have a quorum, and whenever you're ready, we can go back and become official.
Yes. Why don't we do that first? Welcome everybody on this glorious Wednesday afternoon, and I would like to recognize that we now have a quorum, so we can officially open the meeting. Welcome everyone, and we can adopt the agenda, and we can ask also now if there were any public comments. Audrey, did we have any public comments?
There were no public comments.
Okay, very good.
Well, I'll move to adopt the agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous adoption of the agenda. Okay, and now we can, let's see, did anyone have any questions for Becky? Any questions or comments for her in her report?
It seemed to me that there were an extraordinarily high percentage of our graduates this year were women. I don't know if you have numbers, but at some point I'd be curious to get the data on what percentage graduated as opposed to attended the ceremony, and if we have any idea why are women just more likely to persist during the pandemic, or what do we think the reason for that was?
That's a really good question, Board Member Wilson. I remember, we talked about this a little bit at graduation. So I will get the official numbers for you from Yash when he gets back from vacation. Our numbers have been running almost 70-30 female male, which is higher than the national average, but the national average is certainly higher for females in enrolling and persisting. But it did seem like there were a lot more women than men that were graduating. So I will get that official number for you for the next meeting. I'll just send it out to you all when I get it from Yash.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other comments or questions for our president, maybe I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
I think we need a roll call for that.
Oh, okay.
Chair Gamble,
Yes?
Vice Chair Pugh, Secretary Quintana, Member Siegel,
Yes.
Member Wilson.
Yes.
Okay. Let us go ahead and move into closed session. Zuby, are you back in yet? No. Okay. Zuby, are you with us yet? You are.
I am.
Okay, great. Audrey, could you roll call for coming back into open session?
I move that we come back into open session and we only discuss personnel matters related to litigation.
Right.
That was beautiful.
Well stated, Linda.
Second.
And I agree also. Unanimous. Thank you very much. So now back to our agenda, and we had the president's report. We will now hear the enrollment. I'm sorry. I heard something.
Would you like me to do roll call?
Oh, yes, please.
You do need to do that.
Chair Gamble,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pugh, Secretary Quintana, Member Siegel,
Yes.
Member Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We can now move on to enrollment and retention report. Dr. Ortiz Gallegos.
Good afternoon, Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley, colleagues, and community members. I'm excited to be here with you this afternoon to present our enrollment report and to have a discussion by our NPR team, our executive director, Todd Lovato, who will be jumping in just as soon as I finish with some of these enrollment numbers that look really good and promising for the summer and fall terms. As you know, our summer term will begin here just in about a couple of weeks, and we are still getting daily registrations from students from all academic programs and from a number of our community members who are joining us this summer to be a part of our physical fitness programs. So we're really excited to share with you that our head count has grown just about 3%. Our credit hours are continuing to grow, and we're closing the gap in comparison to this time last summer. We are seeing a little bit of a difference between our race and ethnicity of our individuals who are enrolling in classes this summer, but these numbers are still a little bit too early to make a distinction or have a conversation with regards to which of our ethnicities, our students, our populations are enrolling more than our others, but they're still staying within average between our two primary races and ethnicities, white and Hispanic students. You'll see a slight difference with regards to our age group population with our median of about 38. And this is primarily due, the difference is primarily due to our students who are enrolling at a higher rate of our 65 and older population. We're offering more on the ground, in-person live classes, specifically in our arts and those courses that this particular population really likes to take part in. And so we're happy to see the registrations and enrollments growing significantly for this group. But you'll also see that we're holding very strong with our 18 to 24-year-olds, as well as our post-traditionals 25 through 44-year-olds. Those enrollment rates for these age populations continue to remain pretty consistent. Our gender, and this is something I always like to point out because as Member Wilson just discussed moments ago with regards to perhaps maybe seeing more females than males during our in-person graduation, we have continuously to see, and this is happening on a national level, excuse me, our male population for enrollments have continued to drop ever so slightly on a national level. Here you'll see the comparison of where we're at today, that we're up just by 1%, but it is rather significant with regards to the total number of students and male students who are part of this particular program or a part of this summer registration. When we move into the student type, we are looking at a very strong number of continuing students, and these are students who are really part of our retention conversation. These are students who are not stopping out. These are students who are continuously enrolling, whether it's 1 class to 4 classes a semester. So we're happy to see that students from spring to summer continue to be relatively high. We're still seeing a high number of returning students. And as a reminder, these are students who have stopped out and now are coming back. So this number is really good. We're also seeing a really good number of new students. In comparison to last summer, we only had 73 new students. And this summer, we have 143 new students. And so our teams are definitely going to be taking a look at who these students are. We'll be doing a lot of case management with them, making sure that they're engaged and creating that sense of belonging for them, but making sure that we get them on the right pathway for completion, whether it's 1 class or a degree program, and making sure that we try and hold on to them and provide for them the pathway appropriately for the fall semester. So this particular number really excites us right now. We're also seeing a relatively high number of transfer students. This is really exciting for us. Sometimes during the summer, and this is just the way it happens at some of our community colleges, students go back home for the summer. They need 1 or 2 classes, so that way they can take it while they're at home, either being with family or working, and then they can transfer that class to their home institution. What we've also been seeing is that a number of our students are transferring from whatever institution they were at and coming to SFCC with the intention of completing their degree. So all of these new students, this new movement is really exciting for us because we are definitely looking at higher number of new participants at SFCC, and these are definitely populations that we will be keeping a very strong track of and watching them and seeing exactly what it is their intention is while they're at SFCC and how we can continue to help them meet their requirements. Our credit load is pretty much average based off of what we were seeing last semester. You'll remember that the darker red is for 12 and more credits. Most of the time in the summer, we really don't have students who are taking 12 or more credits. In fact, we probably wouldn't even recommend that for most students because that's just a lot of courses and a lot of work to take in such a short period of time. But you'll see here that we did increase ever so slightly with the 0 to 5 credits, and that is in direct correlation to our students who are within that age group of 65 and older who have really increased their overall enrollments. You'll notice here that the cumulative enrollment by week, I highlighted here on the left-hand side, or not highlighted, but wrote week 6 registration was 1,250. And week 6 of registration for this term is 1,578. So that definitely does show that we are week by week of registration, we have grown significantly. So we're excited to see what the momentum is going to look like these next couple of days. As I mentioned before, we have a lot of traffic on the phone, email, online. Students are asking a lot of questions. Our advisors are filled back to back with appointments, not just for summer, but for fall. And so I'm going to jump into fall if that's okay with everyone. And I'm going to share our fall data to let you know, and as a reminder, this is comparison to end of term. So end of term fall 2021 was 4,025 head count, 24,560 in credit hours. It looks like if you look at these numbers, you would say, oh my gosh, Thomasina, we're really down, but we're not. And I'll explain that week to week comparison and registration to you all in just a little bit. But I wanted to kind of just show you the rate of progression with regards to our race and ethnicity and kind of show you where we're at with those who have already enrolled. Classes for fall semester don't start until the middle of August, so we still have a lot of time. But as of right now, our median age is at 42. And that's primarily because we have a lot more 65 and older students who are registered for classes for the fall semester. Our populations are 0 to 17, primarily our dual credit students. They typically won't enroll until closer into August or until the first few weeks of August. My colleague Marcos Maez is not here today. He's actually out at the high schools doing exactly what I'm going to share with you right now, is the recruitment aspect of it. He's recruiting now for summer and recruiting for fall. And so these numbers will grow as we get closer to the fall semester. And the same is true for our 18 to probably 44, 45-year-olds. These individuals right now are just finished the spring semester and they're taking a breath, or they really focused on summer and they're enrolling in summer, and they're working with the advisors to see what is available and what they need for program completion for the fall semester. So it's still very early. A lot of this will continue to grow and move as we get closer to August, probably more so in the middle of June, beginning of August. Again, same thing with the gender information. We look like we're down ever so slightly, but rate of progression, we'll see the changes as we continue the registration process. We are very excited to see that our continuing students have already jumped on it and registered. It's a very large number. We'll know more information about retention once after we close out the end of the spring semester. There's a lot of processing to complete at that point, a lot of posting of grades and awarding degrees. So all of that information will be hopefully available by our next meeting. But I'm also very happy to report that we have close to 300 students, high school students. I'm sorry. I just got a message that my screen is not being shared. So let me try it again. Well, I'm sorry if it wasn't being shared all this time. I was showing such beautiful graphs and reports, so I apologize. I can go back if I need to, and I appreciate my colleague for reaching out and letting me know. So fall semester, I was mentioning student type. We're really excited that we're close to 300 students, high school students who have already registered. We have our returning students. I mentioned to you all what that is all about, but we also have a number of new students and out-of-state and in-state transfer students who are coming in. So this data will all adjust as we continue throughout the summer term. I'm really excited to show that we're already at 12 credit out. I'm sorry, 12% of those who are taking 12 or more credit hours. That's really good considering the number of students who are enrolled. And again, you'll see that we have a larger population of our 0 to 5 credits, and that's primarily because of our 65 and older who have already enrolled. The gaps between these will more than likely close over the summer as we have more degree-seeking students enroll in classes. This is the main part that I love to show you all, so you can really kind of see the week-to-week comparison. As a reminder, our fall 2021 comparison did not, registration did not start until the 7th week. And that was a conscious decision as we were making some major changes to the schedule to address a lot of the online needs for our students. And so we did not start registration until the 7th week. And that first week, we had 768 students who enrolled in classes. We are now in the 6th week of registration, and we have pretty much almost doubled that amount. So we're at 1,483 students. So a lot of work is still going to be done, and my colleague Todd is going to speak about what they're doing on the NPR side of it. But again, I apologize. I didn't show you all the pretty things and all the great numbers, but I will send you all this report. This was fresh off our database this afternoon at 12:03 p.m. So this is very live data, and I will be sharing it with you all, and I can stand in for any questions that you all might have right now.
Yes. So, Zuby, you had a question? Go ahead.
I was going to say, so when I'm looking at the numbers in terms of credit hours, on May 18th, we're considerably ahead of where we were in June 9th last year. Is there any historical data suggest that there's a dip that goes on in between those two dates, or are we just ahead of schedule and looking good?
Member Wilson, I appreciate that question. And because of, I think you're looking at the enrollment report that was submitted to you all by our registrar. The difference is that number one, we have already started our registration, whereas compared to last year for summer and fall, we were short a couple of weeks. We were making the changes, so we didn't want to change a student within their registration process. So we are ahead in that sense that we're on schedule. We're on the right schedule for registration. And there's always this little dip between end of spring semester at any institution until the beginning of probably the summer term, and then again until right before August of registrations. And that really is more so, and this is anecdotal data. And I know Yash says, Thomasina, don't use anecdotal data, but in my 25 years of higher education, I will share this, is that has been my personal experience in just seeing human behavior. After, and I think as a student, Member Wilson, you can attest that after spring term, you kind of just want a minute to kind of gather your thoughts and figure out where you're going to go next. And so this gives us great opportunity to do stronger outreach to our students while they are taking that breath, reminding them not to forget, to excel and come back to us and make their appointments with their advisors and get registered for the subsequent semester. So I don't have any data right now to explain that part, but I really believe that it is more so due to human behavior and practice.
Any other questions for? Any other questions? I have one question, and if you have anecdotal data, that's fine. I'm wondering if there has been any shift in students taking online classes versus hybrid or in-person classes.
On a national level, Chair Gamble, the answer is yes. On a national level, based off of the literature and the data that is available, there has been a major shift to students enrolling in online courses. At SFCC, I'm excited to share that we now are seeing the behavior of our students to come in with more options. And we are seeing that our post-traditional students, those who are anywhere between 24 to about 40, who are really gravitating towards the online courses and like the flexibility of asynchronous. But they are also now appreciating, they're learning more about hybrid. And hybrid courses are where they have a choice, where they could either take the course online or be in person in a class. And so they really appreciate that. But we also now have heard from a lot of our students who are coming in and excited to have in-person classes. And for a lot of them, I just had a student yesterday who said, Thomasina, I'm happy there's a math class that's in person because I can't do math online. I can do online classes, but I can't do math online. And so she was really excited about that opportunity. So I think, again, at first, students were concerned about online learning. Then we did such a great job of teaching them and training them on how to be an online learner that now they really like that option and they prefer that. But they also like the fact that they have other options available to them. So we've been very creative. Our faculty have been great, and we've received all the support that we can now offer multiple modalities to really meet the needs of all different students, student type learning.
That's great, Thomasina. And I guess I would appreciate continued monitoring of those trends, because as you point out, nationally, there seems to be a growing interest in online classes. And I don't know that that's that may be popular. I don't know if it's the best. And I think it's worth us monitoring and trying to continue to understand who is doing what kind of interest they have. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And I'll pass it to my colleague, Todd, who has a lot of great information to share with you all.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Thomasina. That was great. Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley. I'm just gonna share. Becky mentioned earlier about a higher education subcommittee meeting where there was some, a lot of conversation on some of the broader higher education topics, and I don't want to be like doom and gloom, or because Thomasina, and I think her report really shows some of the work that's happening that is really commendable. And so my intention of sharing just a few tidbits is not to kind of cast a cloud over this, but just to kind of give us a sense of some of the broader trends happening nationally and statewide so that we can think about it and maybe help contextualize the work that's happening and the work that will happen moving forward. So I have just a few slides. This won't take long. And let me just share my screen. Okay. And I'm going to go to slideshow from beginning. Before I get too carried away, I want to just cite my source very, very loudly that this is from a memo that was produced by the Council of University Presidents New Mexico report. So I'm just a glorified outline person. I just went and explored this and, of course, have opinions on this, but my main goal is just to share some of the information reported there during, this subcommittee meeting, and these are conversations that have taken place, are taking place in a variety of places. Okay, I got to move this so I can read it. Okay. National trends. Declining enrollments are a concern for higher ed institutions across the country. The declines stem in part from demographics, economic pressures, the COVID pandemic, changes in instructional delivery, and a host of other market factors. Nationally, total post-secondary enrollment increased from 17.2 million students in 2005 to 20.4 million in 2012, but by 2015 it had dropped to 19.1 million. Enrollment growth during the Great Recession was largely fueled by a 30% increase in students who had not attended any school in the prior year. Hang tight. Okay.
Yeah, it seems like 2015 was quite a while ago. And that last figure would be kind of interesting to know more recent.
Yes, indeed. And some of these are quite broad.
Sure.
Hang with me here for a second, because I'm getting a lot of resistance. Okay. The pandemic has further depressed enrollment numbers. Fall 2020 reports continued to show downward trajectories nearly across the board in higher ed, and by late September, enrollment was 4% lower than the previous fall. The largest enrollment declines were among first-year students, with 16% fewer freshmen attending college this year. Four-year, for-profit colleges were the only group that beat the national trends. Here are some state trends. The massive influx of students enrolling in New Mexico public higher ed institutions during the Great Recession caused degree numbers to skyrocket. I remember that working in this. And beginning 4 to 5 years ago, 4 to 5 years after the first recession cohort enrolled. After 6 years passed, the number of students declined. It says from 2010 to 11 to 2019 to 20, total enrollment at New Mexico public higher education institutions declined by nearly 23%. Now, briefly, just some contributing factors, and then I'm done. The decline, these are demographic changes. The decline in higher ed enrollment tracks with a 7% decline in New Mexico residents ages 1 through 14 since 2012, along with a 5% decline in residents ages 15 to 24. This represents an overall loss of 40,000 potential new students for higher education institutions between the 2012 and projected through 2030. In today's environment, 38% of all college students are transfer students. From 2016 to 20, transfer students received more than 40% of all baccalaureate degrees granted by New Mexico public higher education institutions. Enrollment at New Mexico's two-year colleges has decreased by more than 9% since 2015 and has fallen by nearly 23% since 2009. With fewer students in the system, transfers from New Mexico tier colleges to four-year institutions have declined by more than 15% in the past 5 years. This is, yeah, you can tell, this is also a report for all colleges and universities, not just community colleges. A couple more here. Improved time to degree. A paradoxical factor in the enrollment decline is institution success in graduating much larger numbers of students in a shorter period of time. Through improved advising, student support, and reducing requirements for many baccalaureate degrees from up to 150 credit hours to 120. So the example they gave here is 8 years ago, 15% of UNM students graduated in 4 years. Now, more than 35% do so. This means that 20 out of every 100 UNM graduates who would have enrolled for a fifth and possibly sixth year no longer need to do so. That gets to the gist of it. Student retention and loss of financial aid. Increasing the lottery scholarship credit hour requirement from 12 to 15 credit hours in 2014 to 15 has become the principal reason lottery recipients lose their scholarship eligibility. Decreasing the percentage of tuition covered by the lottery scholarship also contributed to declines in higher ed enrollment. So this report goes on to talk about, you know, these are huge topics. And so this isn't even touching on the high school to college connection, enrollment retention completion plans with that growing emphasis on high quality wraparound services that Becky mentioned, and not to mention policy considerations that it mentions. Among them, I highlighted this because I thought it was interesting, but just the number of recipients losing scholarships because of the 15 credit hour requirement, unpredictable funding, transfer students, limited financial aid opportunities, and high school and college curriculum alignment. You can see this is just food for thought. And I'll share with Audrey the full report so you all can dig into it as you please. But I think that as we move forward, that understanding some of these issues helps me identify the challenges and helps remind me that we're not alone. On a national level, we're not alone, but particularly in New Mexico, we have a set of issues, and as an institution, we just need to continue to work together to identify these obstacles and then overcome them, ultimately in the form of on the student level, supporting our students and meeting their needs.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, Linda?
Thank you, Todd. I think those are all very relevant that we know some of, and we know that the public schools in New Mexico are losing students. So of course the colleges and universities are losing students. And I was looking at the census data comparing 2010 to 2020, and we know that New Mexico didn't grow very much. In fact, in that 10-year period, well, we also know the census probably didn't count a lot of people in New Mexico, but that our population only increased by 60,000 people. Just over 2.1 million people in New Mexico, where every other state in the Southwest had dramatic population growth. We had essentially nothing. And that also impacts that we're not drawing in families with children to come and live and work in New Mexico for many issues. But to me, that makes it all the more important that we as a communities college start trying to bring back into college all those adults who wanted to go and didn't, or started and stopped, and bring them back, particularly in our workforce areas. So that's it.
Thank you.
Other comments? Zuby, anything?
It's just something we need to pay attention to and keep track of. I know a constituent asked me the other day about this and said if we are in enrollment decline, then why would we go out for another bond issue? So presumably if we're going to build infrastructure, it's an expansion period. And I think it's something we have to pay attention to. If we don't project that we're going to be having growth, then we need to think about what that means in terms of everything that we do.
Right.
Mr. Chair, Member Wilson, and I think that's a very fair point about, so what would we be doing with bond money? I would say from the outset that there is no plan to expand our existing footprint at all. I mean, certainly not in my lifetime that I can see that, we would need to do that. It's more of a matter of updating what we have, tackling deferred maintenance and a lot of those things. But certainly I don't think we have any justification for adding any kind of square footage to our space right now.
And I guess, Todd, I would sort of add, on the, I don't know the whole list of things you had there, but of course there have been some, a significant positive change has been the Opportunity Scholarship. So while the lottery scholarship has changed some requirements, the Opportunity Scholarship has opened up a variety of opportunities, and exactly how that is going to impact is going to be very interesting. And in addition, I think the mayor's guaranteed income project is supposed to, I believe, and Becky, maybe you know better, I think we're supposed to get some results from that sometime this fall, from those students that have had the guaranteed income.
Mr. Chair, the University of Pennsylvania has actually been conducting the study that we're part of, and so you're correct. I'm not exactly clear on the date either. Yash has been the point person on them for that data, but they have, we don't even know who the students are that are getting the money or anything like that. It's all, they're conducting all that. But yes, it'll be very interesting to see what the results are on that when we get those late. And I believe it is later on this year.
Right. And certainly, the other issue that certainly a variety of people have been talking about, including you, Todd, the whole notion of wraparound services. So it's not simply, are people having the economic wherewithal to go to school, but gee, if they have also some wraparound services like childcare services available to them, what kind of difference does that make? And I'm pleased that we are looking at that in a variety of ways to see if that will enhance student both enrollment and retention.
Yes, I agree. This is going to be an interesting period of time moving forward for data collection as
Yes.
as these numbers come in, and as a group, we start to learn more about the impact of how these policies impact practice or outcomes of residents and our people in our communities. I think that there's a lot. we're going to learn a lot. We're going to have this conversation again in a year, and we're going to know things we didn't know now. And I can tell you from just, our efforts that, we do believe that the Opportunity Scholarship and these types of services, wraparound services, and addressing the barriers does play a impact, is persuasive in people making college decisions, especially in the population that we, some of the population segments that we serve. And so we have been putting a lot of emphasis onto things like the Opportunity Scholarship to let people know this is a thing, learn more about this, come to us and we will help you. We'll get you through this. That's what is I think that's our unique positioning as community colleges, is that this is what we focus on, those areas. That's a way, to create brand differentiation, to use kind of a marketing term. But that's what we do. And so the more we specialize in those areas, I think that is among all ages, but adults as well, very much included in that. That is how we can elevate ourselves as a really helpful and important option when it comes to prospective college students making decisions now. Oh, I could go to UNM for free, or I could go to Santa Fe Community College for free. Which one do I choose? I think those types of services and that support is what's going to help us rise above that. That's an advantage.
Right. And of course, the other advantage is not only with other schools that have real estate, but with all of the online classes. We offer something that is free, whereas online classes they have some advantages, but all of them cost money. And I think increasingly our competition is the online classes that are offered both by private enterprises as well as other public enterprises.
Yes, that slide that discusses, that private institutions are the only, colleges and universities kind of bucking these trends. It kills me. But if, you look at their balance sheets or whatever, this is a shameless plug here, but the amount of money they put into marketing those institutions is so high. It's a quarter of their entire budget, some of them.
Right, sure.
And so, we just have to be clever. That's what we've always done, or we tried to do.
Right.
And so I hear you.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not all about marketing, but certainly marketing is an issue. It's seductive, or it can be. Okay, thanks very much, Todd.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we shall move to Faculty Senate report.
Mr. Chair, there isn't a Faculty Senate report per se because the faculty are off contract. They did submit the minutes though for your perusal, and so they will be back in person or in August.
Okay.
So I guess on to Faculty Senate.
Okay.
Sorry, Staff Senate.
Staff Senate.
Sorry. Here's
Okay,
Chris.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley. Thanks for giving us some time today to speak on Staff Senate. We have been busy. We've definitely just trying to keep the communication going within Staff Senate. Of course, as President Rowley mentioned earlier, the announcement on the mask mandate has been relayed. Also, the information as to it being an option has been relayed. Some questions have come through as to if certain areas want to keep the masks, how they go about that. So we're doing our best within Staff Senate to communicate those and send them down the proper path. More communication on the World Central Kitchen that President Rowley also mentioned, that we're looking for volunteers. We're giving them the information to get where they need to be to volunteer to help in any way they can with that World Kitchen and donating that food. We are also still looking for a Spanish interpreter. We've given it its due diligence to look for a volunteer to help us in Staff Senate. That is not coming to light. So we are now taking the turn to see if we can make this a staffed position. As at this point, we're just not getting the feedback we want. The feedback we are getting is that it's a lot of work to kind of bring to the table on a volunteer status to interpret for us. So we'll be turning those pages as they come. Presentations were made on policies 4-9 discrimination and 4-10 sexual harassment by Yashi Morimoto, and no feedback on those as of yet. One shout out I want to make on behalf of Staff Senate is to Valerie Nye, our library director, who helped us coordinate an election for co-chair and communications officer. So thanks to her for putting that together, and I'm happy to say we had quite a good turnout when it came to voting. And happy to also say that they have elected Robert Gutierrez, who is currently our tutoring center director. And unfortunately, he's out this week, so I can introduce him in person, but he'll be at the next board meeting and we can talk a little more to him at that point. But happy to have him on board. He's going to be a great addition to our mission here. And I've worked with Robert for quite some time, and we have a good rapport, so we'll hopefully get some good work done. Last but not least, we are going to join with Faculty Senate for fall convocation. As it is right now, we're pushing to have 2, possibly 3 meetings with Faculty Senate to kind of just get an overall general broad stroke of what both senates are talking about, not necessarily to collaborate on a lot of items, but just really to kind of get a feel of what the overall mission is, which is student empowerment, and talk to them. So yeah, come fall, we'll meet with Faculty Senate and have a joint meeting there. And that is what I got for Staff Senate report. I stand for any questions.
Any questions, comments?
I'm wondering, Chris, in the minutes it says that about the 240-hour leave cap, that it highlights the underlying problem that some departments are staffed in a way that makes it extremely difficult for employees to take time off. And it's hoped that the problem can be addressed in a more structural way. And I'm wondering, do you all have proposals, or are you working on some suggestion as to how to do that? Or do you feel that there are people who may be unable to take the leave in excess of 240 this summer and would then have to sell it just because they were unable to take leave?
Well, yeah, I think the messaging that we put out there, or I know the messaging we put out there, is to talk to their direct reports to address those issues as they are. So if it is the scenario where they are unable to take leave, it's that we've just pressed the issue of talking to their direct reports about that concern, because it's not campus wide. I mean, there are different reasons for people not taking the 240, but yeah, one of them that you mentioned is that they couldn't. But to those, we're trying to express that message that talk to whoever that direct report is about how you can kind of alleviate that, and that's where we are so far with it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments, questions? Linda? Okay, thank you very much, Chris.
Great, thank you all.
Okay, student government, do we have any representative? Probably not.
No, Mr. Chair, I do not think we have a student representative for the summer either.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, now we have the approval of the consent agenda, and we have minutes from our April meeting, our May meeting, and policy. Let's start with our April meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
And a second, I think I heard.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And for the special May 9th board meeting, motion,
Move to approve.
Second,
and all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. And finally, the policy issue, and I think Dr. Rowley, you were going to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually going to ask Laura Mulry to speak to this. But this is the policy 4-36 on compensation and benefits. So Laura, if you could update us on where we are in the process.
Sure. Chair Gamble, members of the board, and President Rowley. There were absolutely no changes from the governing board at their review last month of policy 4-36. Thus, it was recommended that it be presented on the consent agenda.
Okay. So it just needs our approval again today?
That's right.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moved and approved. Thank you very much, Laura.
Thanks.
Okay, it looks like there are no items to be removed from the consent agenda. So now we can move to non-consent action items, and Mr. Tellis, who has all kinds of things to share with us.
Thank you, Chairman Gamble. Yeah, we have quite a few things, but hopefully they won't take too long. I'm hoping
Should we
they're.
take out our calculators or?
You'll see some of these things are pretty boilerplate things. So if I may, I'll start out with the financial reports for the time period fiscal year ended April 30th, or fiscal year through April 30th. And just, I'll spend some time on the, let's see, my camera's not doing what it needs to do here. Share camera. Okay, I think I got it. So as of April 30th, the overall kind of view of the college's financial situation is things are looking pretty good.
Are you sharing something with us, Nick?
Oh, sorry. Share screen. Can you see that?
Good, thank you.
Okay, good. Again, I think that through the end of April, we're really seeing good financial performance at the college. I think the financial state of things is pretty healthy. And so you'll see that in the report, we have a total of $29.3 million in the operating bank account. And that's a year-to-year increase of 14.7 million to the prior year. Tuition and fees revenues up 12% and up by $578,000. So that's really good news. A lot of that is really attributed to our continuing ed and contract training area of our revenue growth there. State appropriation revenue has increased by 10% and is up $878,000 over the year. Local mill levy revenue is up 4%, up $650,000 and totaling $15.4 million through the end of April. So most every category except for other revenues were up. Other revenues actually down $757,000, but that's only due to the emergency funding that we received last year. which was quite substantial. And so normally we only really receive about, in the area of $200,000 in other revenue under normal circumstances. So that's on track. And in total, ING revenues were up 1.3 million, and that's up 5%. So good news on the revenue side. Expenses were up just a bit by 4%, and that's almost $1 million compared to last year. Looking at compensation was up 4%, up almost $800,000, and supplies, equipment, utilities were up 3%, and just by the amount of $203,000. Looking at our cash and bank, if you look at all of our bank accounts, the total makeup of everything that we have in terms of cash accounts are a total of 44.3 million. And again, that's made up of the 29.3 million in operating cash that I mentioned earlier. That also includes $309,000 of reserved cash for an NMFA bonds and IGA performance energy contract. The 44.3 also includes 2.3 million for restricted bond proceeds from the actual NMFA issuance, 2.8 million for restricted bond proceeds from 2018 and 2020 LGOB, and then also $5 million in restricted debt service cash. That's funding and cash available to pay down on our outstanding debt. And then we have 4.7 million in educational technology notes that we have this year. We didn't have that last year. If you look at the operating cash, this is always something that, at least with the FRC, we tend to like to look at. And we did meet with the FRC on Monday to go over these statements. And so out of the operating cash amount, you can see that once you deduct for some really cash that is a part of that operating cash amount, but it's really restricted for grants. And then you take out the funding that is really dedicated for student clubs, restricted small business development center funding, and restricted capital funds. And then you reduce that 29.3 million by the required cash reserve amount. There's really 10.6 million in available unrestricted cash. So a lot less than what it might look like on the surface level for our operating cash. And then here again, we show the breakdown of how we make the calculation for our policy requirement and reserve amount that we have in place at 12.3 million. Through the end of April, we see that our revenues are made up of 50% from local appropriations, 32% state appropriations, 17% from tuition and fees. And so that's staying pretty stable from year to year. On the expense side, this is pretty consistent. 48% of expenses attributed to instruction, academic support, 11%, student services, 9%, 20% for institutional support, 12% to plant and O&M expenses there. Again, at the end of April, our ING expenditures were up about 4% and almost $1 million and totaled 25.3 million. And so the budget thing we keep track of is our budget to actual spend is 83%, at 83% of the fiscal year complete. That's kind of where the month of April is situated. It's 83% of our 12 months complete. We have about 73% of our ING budget actually spent. So that looks good. That looks on track. And with that, that's pretty much it. I can stand for any questions that you might have.
That final chart you have from the Higher Learning Commission, that's kind of an interesting financial index, particularly from 2020 to 2021. How do we account for that?
It's really the reserve requirement that we put in place and achieving that $12.3 million. We didn't have that, in prior to 2020, we didn't have that in place.
Well,
And so it makes a huge difference in our CFI HLC accreditation scoring. So that's why that's so important. At a 6.43 ranking and scoring for CFI, that really shows a healthy financial picture of the college.
right.
Again, is another indicator of our good financial picture at this point. We have good indicators from the revenue side, and our expenses are managed. We have that cash reserve, and all of that really leads us to get to this point where 6.43 is pretty strong.
Right.
And so anyway, over the last 7 years or so, we've made a lot of, all of the commitment to the financial health of the institution, with what we've done with budgets and setting priorities for the cash reserves, and all of that has led us to this spot that puts the college at a really strong financial position. And it's interesting because you can see it actually in the CFI.
Right. Yeah. Well,
And then HLC does use this to really gauge our accreditation and our health.
right.
The financial audit is really a big part of of what they look at on an annual basis for accreditation.
Well, more credit to you and the financial staff and the administration for both paying attention to that and guiding us to be a financially stable and viable institution.
Yeah, it's really great, and it's not just a few people. It's the institution committed to it, and the hard decisions the board had to make over the years, which has been a lot over the last 7 years or so. There's been some difficult decisions that had to be made, but it's gotten us to this point, and with the president's support and the work with the whole school, like everybody watching their budgets, things like that, really has gotten us to this position. So
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you all very much. We don't say that too often. Okay, you have some other numbers for us?
I do. I think I need an approval on this one, though.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Unanimously approved. Thank you, Nick.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This is the one that's most fascinating, probably the most exhilarating report that we do. But this is the HED required report for the third quarter, and we're answering favorably to all of these questions that HED asks us to respond to every quarter. And with that, our answers are, again, showing that the college is in pretty good financial health. With that, I don't know if you have any questions. We do need to approve this to send it off
Move to
to
approve.
Second.
Okay. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next one, C off of the agenda. Mr. Chair, board members, President Rowley, we have this one. We're asking the board to approve a payment agent on our educational technology notes that we recently issued back in September. And in our original, if you remember all of the paperwork, there was pretty extensive paperwork back then. We had assigned myself as the vice president for finance as the payment agent, and to basically pay down on those outstanding ed tech notes. But it's really better if we use our Bank of Oklahoma payment agent. So the college already has a payment agent through BOK, Bank of Oklahoma, that we use to pay down on our local general obligation bonds. And so we just want to be able to use them to be able to pay down on these educational tech notes. And it's just a lot more efficient. There's a ton of reporting that is required, and the bank is really set up to do that better than us independently through our financial operations.
So what do they charge us for that?
It's not very, it's a very nominal amount. Normally, I think it comes down to our service fee for that account is, I don't know, like $50 a month or something like that.
Is there
Okay.
is there a reason why we're working with a bank in Oklahoma as opposed to a bank in New Mexico?
Oh, geez, we've just had that as our payment agent for a long time. It's set up within our local, whenever we approve the resolution and the notice of sale and all of that, we've always used this bank in those documents. And so that's where it's designated, and that's, just what we've been accustomed to use. It's been there ever since I started with the college. It hasn't been broken, so it seems to be working, and I guess we've never looked at it as a need to fix it.
So is that what our bond company recommended them? Is that how we got with them?
Yeah. That's basically it.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second,
And in favor?
aye.
Aye. Approved unanimously.
Right, thank you very much for that one. It's going to really streamline our reporting too, because there's a lot of reporting to federal entities on these bonds. It's really important. Thank you for that. All right. Moving on to item D, if I may. This is a really important one for OIT, and I don't know if Corey is on the call, but this has to do with upgrading our audiovisual infrastructure for our classrooms on campus. And really, we had an agreement originally that we had executed in January, and I think that we had about 10 classes, actually 42 classes under the original contract. And since then, because of the way things have happened and the need for more AV and things like that, capabilities in our classes, we've determined that we need really 10 additional classrooms. And so that's what we're asking the board to approve this amendment, because this would increase the original contract by about $457,388 for a new total amount of $1.1 million. And these are really, really important for instruction and what we need to get done with remote learning and things like that. So,
Corey, do you want to speak to that?
So I may ask Mason to jump in. Thank you. We appreciate the first set of classrooms, but we do have a lot of demand for this type of classroom. We want to make sure that we have the capacity that we need across campus and for every program that would like to use that. So we've just increased that so that we can make sure that we can fulfill the requests and the requirements that we have. If there's any specific questions, we can also bring Mason in if he wants to address anything. Thanks.
So will this include the capacity to have a in-person meeting along with I've forgotten now the terms we're using for both in-person and online?
Yes, it's high flex. So yes.
What is it called?
High flex.
iFlex. Yes. So okay.
How difficult is it for the operators? Is this something that's very seamless? I noticed in the faculty senate minutes, there seemed to be some people that were concerned, and do we have adequate resources allocated for training faculty who will be using these rooms? Could we arrange it sometime so some of the board members could get a tour and get to see what this technology looks like? Okay.
I guess we talked about the possibility of doing that at our meeting next month. So from the boardroom.
So just,
Okay.
so I have a question. I'm just clarifying that all of these are within the main campus, but in different wings, 300, 500, 600. So in the I was just gonna say, in the higher education center, are the rooms all high-teched out? Okay, thanks.
Rosito, I had some meetings over there, and it seems to work pretty well.
But if there are no other comments, do I have a motion to approve?
I had one question. I know this is only expanding an existing contract. but I'm noticing in the contract, the company is located in Tampa, Florida, but then in the report, it's an Albuquerque company listed. And I'm just wondering, is it that they're just, that there are only certain companies nationally that really have this kind of capacity is why we're contracting with folks on, from out of the area?
So our understanding, we only received, sorry, Mason, we only received one response.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Mhm. Okay. Motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
And approve?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Great. Thank you, Corey. And Mason.
Okay, next thing we have is item E under action items. And Mr. Chair, board members, President Rowley, we have our annual capital project summer hearings submittal that we are required to have the board approve. And so let me pull that up real quick. I have Andrea Mueller on the phone. And we just want to ask the board to approve these two items that we will want to submit to the hearing with New Mexico Higher Education. And the priority one project in the packet is really a request to enhance and upgrade the loop road and emergency evacuation routes around campus. We think that that's really important. And then the second one is the second priority project would be the college main building exteriors to stucco and ADA and site improvements. Normally HED will only approve one of these. And so we're hoping that they would approve priority number one. And with that, we had included some of the elaborate information that we have to submit to New Mexico HED. These are the printouts, but we'll end up actually having to input all of this information on their website. That's what they asked us to do. With that, Andrea, do you have anything else that you'd like to just point out? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. If there's any questions, we're happy to help answer them. This loop road emergency access upgrade has been requested in the past as part of our emergency management system. And we have received some funding for our emergency management system through several STB appropriations. And so right now we're still sitting a fairly low amount of money to achieve all of our emergency management infrastructure that we want to upgrade. And so we really want to ask the state for the funding for the loop road separately, because we have a lot of work to do on our emergency management project coming up, and it's going to be a large project.
So fundamentally, what will change on the loop road?
So it has never been upgraded, so there'll be some, milling and some, repaving that is completed. They'll also look at possibly some bike lanes, new striping, any kind of signage that is required for emergency access for emergency vehicles, both in and out. And there'll be probably some other things, like traffic control and sidewalk access, that kind of stuff, ADA access, and crosswalks. So I think they'll be looking at a lot of those things, and we tried to Our engineers that gave us the estimated cost for this are going to be helping us to look at everything that's associated with the upgrades.
Okay, thank you.
So who drives on this road? Anybody normally?
On the loop road,
Yeah, on that section we're improving.
yeah, so it's the entire, I should have a map up for you, but it's the entire road that surrounds the campus, the main campus.
Okay, so it's the whole loop road that we're improving.
That's right.
So everybody.
Yes, everybody drives that road. Yep. Mhm.
I was thinking you were talking about something on the back of the campus, but that's just our section. But I get it now. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, the only other thing that I did want to kind of pinpoint in on is the 5-year plan. And this is really important when we submit our documents to HAD, having this plan in place that we stick to. And in this plan, we discussed this with our local bond advisory committee and got some input on this plan. We also really integrated our institutional facility master plan into developing this plan that the board, we hope, approves today. And on here, you'll see that the loop road is the #1 priority. The exterior stucco is #2. We have the TATC HVAC upgrades for ventilation that we've been working on is 3. From the institutional or the facility master plan, we have as a priority 4 the student hub that came up in that master planning, if you remember. So that would be the student hub 100 and 200s, 300s renovation. As #5 would be the library in 500 wing renovations. And then 6 we have on here as the emergency management, fire suppression, infrastructure upgrades. And that's what we think we can work on in the next 5 years. Of course, we have more items on the facility master plan, but we'll have to cycle them in here. This is just what we would plan on in the next 5 years.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I hear motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
And do I hear approval?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously approved. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And item F on our action items is very similar. It's a bit redundant, Mr. Chair, board members, President Rowley. It's a bit redundant with the HED requirements and those projects. The New Mexico Department of Finance also has a capital planning requirement and process that we're asked to submit our ICIP plan. And now HED, in the past, they really hadn't been too focused on this, but now they're asking that we do integrate our documents that we're asking HED to approve, to integrate them into the ICIP plan. And so it's basically the same thing you approved, but it's different documents, and it's a form that, or a submittal that goes to a website that's that New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration has in place, and we'll have to input these projects in there. But what they ask us to do is submit a resolution that the board approves. And here, as you look at the resolution, it's just, the college is required to adopt the ICIP. And on December 1st, we did, or the governing board adopted the long-term facilities campus plan in 2021. And we update that plan every 5 years. And then we added in here, Santa Fe Community College is also required to submit a 5-year capital projects plan to NMHED, and that's what you just approved. And this ICIP is developed from that 5-year plan, and it's really just getting that 5-year plan basically submitted to HED for their purposes.
Okay.
With that,
Motion to approve.
How often do we approve this? Are we making a 5-year commitment, or is this something we look at every year?
we look at it every year, and it's so you'll see on here it's for the time period 2024 through 2028. Next year you'll see on here 2025 through 2029. I think that's the time period that will be next year. And hopefully we will be able to take some of these projects that we've completed off of the list and update it. That's kind of the thinking behind it.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, and do I have a approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimously approved.
Great, thank you very much.
And item 11, Miss White, Miss Allred, and Miss Tewart. New grant application. Are any of those people present?
Yes, sir. My name is Laura White. I'm the new grants director.
Great.
And I think the other couple of people that are presenting with me will also be here. I have a quick PowerPoint to show you that'll outline the grants that we have coming up. If I can get it to present in Teams, my first time doing it this way. Let me try it real quick.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Laura White.
Nice to meet you all. I have been watching the meetings since I started in late to the very end of March. I find it very interesting how much you guys cover in these meetings. So I appreciate being able to participate today.
You didn't fall asleep too often?
No, sir.
That's just the board members.
Oh,
And the
let me see
president.
if I can get it. Let me see if I can figure out a way to, is there a way to share my screen from this? It's not treating it because it's a go-to meeting. I'm trying to. Oh, at the bottom, I see it. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Well, now if I can get it in the normal. Can you see that okay?
Yes?
Okay. So these, we have just a couple that are coming up in the near future. We wanted to get them before you. We have a Title V grant that I'm writing with Mindy Watson and Terry Erickson. This one is total award $3 million. We also have a Department of Labor Strengthening Community College grant that we were applying for. This recently just changed this morning. I will update you on that in just a minute. And then we have an NMHED nurse expansion appropriation that's also included here. And I believe Katrin is presenting her own, Ms. Allred. So I will let her do that when it, as soon as I'm finished. For the Title V Increasing Success Grant that we're applying for, this is due June 6th. There's estimated of 79 awards that will be made. We have a pretty strong application going. I feel like the goals are listed here. We want to do some new things with supporting our students, especially in the onboarding process. to ensure that our advisors have a little more time to help the students one-on-one and less tied up with the helping them do their applications and some of the paperwork side. So we have a piece built in for that. We're looking at trying to incorporate, of course, some professional development for faculty and staff to help us work with the college's unique student population. And then also high flex. I heard that come up in the conversation just a moment ago. That's one of the tasks that we want to help with this Title V grant, is to bring a couple more of the classrooms into the high flex ready format so that we can offer those courses, in different modalities for our students as they're now requesting after the COVID shutdown. We have a so this is the grant, the Department of Labor. This was a Strengthening Community Colleges grant that we were going after with a consortium. There's been some up and down with our consortium members at their home institutions. So the lead institution was C&M, and they asked us this morning if we would put this off and not apply on June 2nd. This will probably come around next year. They would like us to work as a consortium group for the next 6 months or so to refine this application. They have some other funding they want to go after to help us become a stronger consortium that may actually make us kind of a model site for consortium projects here in New Mexico. So this one, we are not currently, this has been tabled at this point until the next application round. The NMHED nurse expansion appropriation is due June 15th. This has 10 to 15 awards. This will be increasing, the capacity of our nursing program and increasing post-secondary education access, affordability, completion, post-enrollment success. And the H&D endowed positions in nursing is the additional one. I believe this is the one that Katrin is going to speak to, or maybe Terry. I'm not sure who's shaking their head at me. This is due June 15th. It's higher ed institutions and travel colleges were eligible. Funding amount on this one is $2 million. That can't be right. It's probably 200 million, I'm guessing, with 30 million total available to us. Sorry, I imported a slide there. Is it 2 million total? Okay. The reporting requirements, 2 million total available to us with 30 million total available. I apologize. Reporting requirements, just an annual report and certification. So I apologize that we had to to the Strengthening Community Colleges Training Grant. We put a lot of work in on this, so we're not just going to let it go. We'll still pursue that, but it won't be submitted on June 2nd. And that's just our lead institution made that call that they want to put together a stronger application. It's pretty competitive for this one, and it is a good amount of money. So they want to put together a better, stronger consortium and have a little bit more time to work on it so we don't miss any opportunities with that. That one we're going to table for now. If you do have any questions about the Title V, I would be happy to answer those. Otherwise, I do have Terry and Katrin here to talk about their parts if you have any questions for them. And I will quit sharing my screen if I can figure out how to do it. There we go.
Okay, Terry?
So the nursing expansion funds are all, this is all information that Linda Siegel is very familiar with. We are asking for the maximum amount we can ask for, which is 1.5 million. What we want to use those funds for are to upgrade our simulation lab, hire a simulation lab technician so that we can expand our sim lab hours to evenings and weekends. If we can use our sim lab a little more efficiently across all our programs, it'll be much easier for the nursing students to get in there. Right now, all of our allied health students are using it, and they have already started scheduling for the fall semester. Summer's already scheduled. Fall, they've already started scheduling for. So when you're trying to think of adding additional students, regardless of the program, whether it's nursing or EMSI or any program, you really need to have more space to do it in. and we don't utilize it as much during the evenings and the weekends. So it's really looking at the spaces we have right now, how we're using them and using them more efficiently across the board, as well as upgrades to some of our equipment that we need. You know, our sim lab mannequins cost $65,000 to $80,000 each, and we have 5 that are aging out and are no longer eligible for warranties. So those are big chunks of change that add up pretty quickly. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Do you have any specific questions along that? Yes, Miss Linda?
So how many more students are we going to be able to add for?
So per cohort, we'll start with 8.
8?
Yes. So 8 per group. That will be where we start. Now, something else to consider for nursing faculty, we had received an increase in RPSP funding that actually gives us an additional faculty member as our 0.5 FTE, as well as an assistant director who can also work as a faculty member. So being able to beef up our faculty with RPSP funding, we really weren't looking at this particular source of funding because this isn't absolutely guaranteed that it's going to be coming again, but we really wanted to be a little more conservative in our spending as far as that's concerned. Now, really, other big pieces with this is student support, bringing students in and making sure they have mentors, as well as making sure our graduates have NCLEX prep. So all kinds of mentorships with faculty and other students, all kinds of support in NCLEX preparation as well.
So a lot of that 1.5 is the one, what people are fearful is one-time only money, though I would stake my reputation on the fact that it will be recurring. But
which is why we're putting one position in there. I'm just being cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic. I would hate, anyway. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're really looking at beefing up our area and making sure we can serve the students we have, as well as offer some times outside of the normal times that we're typically on campus in that area.
And ultimately, that will allow us to increase students in the next fiscal year.
Ma'am, we are hoping by next fall. Yes, definitely, to have everything up and running, everything in place, and ready to go with at least one additional cohort of 8, yes.
But my question about upgrading the sim lab, increasing the number of sim people, that will help educate more students, train more students.
Absolutely. So the New Mexico Board of Nursing allows up to 50% of replacement of clinical time with simulation. Now, if we're looking at what we typically do with our nursing students, level 1, it's really a minimal amount of time that they're spent in clinicals. We can absolutely use the sim lab to help boost the time they have learning all of their clinical skills and their interactions. Levels 2 through 4, we absolutely have them in the hospital. So really it will be decreasing minimally the amount that our level 1 students are absolutely in the hospital, so that we can use those spots and slots for our upper level nursing students. We're not having a huge amount of clinical availability right now. So really what we want to do is maximize what clinical availability we have for our senior students.
Thank you. Sounds great. Congratulations.
Any other questions about the 1.5?
No, just a quick question on your last comment, though, regarding clinical availability in the hospitals. Why is that limited? I mean, we now have 2 big hospitals Can you give me just a little hint of,
So Presbyterian is an amazing hospital. They don't have big enough units for our clinical placement. Our groups are regulated by the Board of Nursing. So it's 8-to-1, 8 students per 1 clinical faculty. They don't have a large enough unit to house all 8 students. So it's difficult for us to place students at Press unless you want to double my clinical, my clinical allowance for my clinical faculty and have smaller clinical groups and more faculty, but it's really difficult to recruit and retain faculty right now. So essentially, there's not enough space or not large enough units in the spaces that we have. Now we do, the last 2 semesters, we do utilize evenings and weekends. With our so literally for half of their program, our students are doing their clinicals on evenings and weekends. We really are trying to utilize the space. Now, this is also, we're playing nice, which I think is what we should be doing with other nursing programs. So we absolutely use Christus, so does Luna, and so does Northern. And we are all trying to increase the amount of students we're putting through. So I purposefully have changed SFCC's schedule of clinical days at Christus so that we do not overlap. And that means we have more availability of where we can put our students. So it was very strategic, but absolutely. Yeah, there's only so much space.
right, yeah. Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the endowment.
Yes.
So if we get that money, that would, we have the capacity through the foundation to place that money for the generation of income, which is the only thing we can use that.
Mm-hmm.
So 1.5, that's the request. So
1.5 is for the direct funds. It's 2 for the endowment. Yeah, 2 million for the endowment. And essentially those funds are really going to be directed at beefing up faculty stipends for nursing faculty. And if we can work with the foundation to increase the corpus, then I would like to add an additional nursing faculty member as well. So it's a little bit, there's a lot of things happening at once, yes, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions anybody has.
We like to have lots of things happening at once.
I'm glad somebody does. It is exciting. It is very exciting. It's a wonderful time for allied health to really be beefing up what we're doing and what we're offering.
That's important because we need that.
Yes, sir.
And we'll continue to need it. It's not a declining industry.
No.
Okay, any other questions for Terry or for Laura? If not, do we have to approve? No, this is just the information, right?
We require your approval because we're asking for more than $100,000. So each of these items are things that require approval.
Okay.
Move to approve the 1.5 and the 2 million.
Don't forget the Title V.
And Title V.
Title V. Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. And approve?
Aye.
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 Okay, unanimous approval.
Thank you.
That cover it all?
Was Katrin here? Because I thought she was going to present something as well.
She's working on a grant, but I don't see her here.
Okay. Yeah, she told me she had already submitted all of her stuff and she was going to present on her own.
So,
We are a little bit ahead of schedule, so we'll see. She may show up a bit later.
Okay, I'll send her a message and let her know
okay,
that we hit this point. Maybe she can jump in just a minute. I'll send her a message on Teams. Thank you very much for your time.
okay. Thank you, Laura. Okay, we move to the next item related to policy. First reading on 2 policy issues, and Dr. Rowley and Laura Mulray and Corey, and yes, anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am going to turn 4-35, the leave policy, over to Laura Mulry, and then we will have Corey walk us through the creation of our new acceptable use policy.
Okay.
Good afternoon again, Chair Gamble, members of the board, and President Rowley. 4-35 leave. We've recommended some of the edits here based on the collaboration that is involved with the ERP, the Enterprise Resource Planning Project. So I can walk through it. Mason, are you going to project it, or do you need me to do that? Oh, it looks like my video's not working either. Darn. Mason, I guess I'm going to bring it up. Oh, it doesn't let me. Shoot. Oh, there's Mason. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So mostly what we've done is bring it up to the template that the governing board decided a number of years ago that we wanted to follow, cleaned up some of the language, and then I would say moving some of under policy statement, we moved a few things down to process where they belong. The statement's supposed to be high level. We added a couple of terms for our glossary, compensatory time and earned educational leave. And then if you scroll down to policy process, you'll see that the copy that we moved from above is placed here. And then we cleaned up some of the language. We moved a couple of things to procedures, as you'll see under number 4. No changes in the rest of through number 8. Number 8, we just removed some of the abbreviations. We try to avoid abbreviations in our policies. And then no changes other than edits to make it easier to understand. You can keep scrolling until we get to something that shows some changes. So annual leave is where the change have come. So if you look under annual leave and then scroll down to number 4, in order to align with other institutions involved with the Collaborative for Higher Education Shared Services, under 4B, full-time, regular, and term employees may carry up to 240 hours of annual leave. And that is the maximum hours they will be able to have up until the end of their annual leave. They can't carry it over. This is a change from what we had previously, and but it's something that the college has wanted to do for some time. And so we're putting it into the policy now. And I have to say that Vice President Morimoto worked on this with Amy Pell in finance in order to have us align with the CHESS project. So if I'm not speaking as smoothly as he can, that's why. And that's the main overview. Dr. Rowley, did you want to add anything?
I think you've covered everything, Laura. And, I feel like, as you said, Laura, Yash and Amy Pell have worked on this and have been extremely thorough about all of the fine tuning that they've done. So we would stand for any questions.
Right, and at the very bottom, you'll see that it has gone through the shared governance review process.
Yep.
In addition to that, President Rowley held a special conversation.
Comments, questions?
To go over this change, just dedicated to this, be unaware of what was happening.
Well, I'm wondering,
And we also sent it out, I believe, in a communication from the president as well.
Louis?
I'm sorry?
I was gonna say, in this process, were there any concerns or amendments that any governance groups put into this document that didn't survive to the draft that we're looking at?
Governance groups, they are discussed during governance council. So I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Member Wilson, I don't recall that there were any that came forward as particular concerns. We did have a pretty thorough discussion at Governance Council, and we didn't have specific recommendations from either the faculty group. This became part of the bargaining process, and for the staff, though, there weren't any particular issues.
Mm-hmm. I guess I have my only concern really is in I4B, where we have, which is on page G24. We're stripping you, President Rowley, of the authority to give extensions to that 240-hour level. And I just want to ask you, given that the staff senate seemed to be still concerned about that, and there were some concerns as to whether people were being given reasonable opportunity to take leave, are you confident that somehow that is not going to be an issue, so we don't have to worry about that you can assure us that that no supervisors are going to keep people from taking leave that they need to take?
Yes, sir, I am. I have made it really clear that the board's purview on this too is that people need to take their vacations. And so obviously, everybody in financial aid can't go on vacation the exact same week. But I think that everybody understands, and particularly too, the way that we've kind of had staggered staffing too. I think that to me kind of undercuts the argument that we can't have more than one person in a particular area go on vacation at the same time. And I will say that for the people that I am supervising, that we have a little lighter group here today because they're all on vacation, and that is being passed along to the people in various functional areas so that everybody is being able to take their leave. And I think the understanding too is that even if that puts some pressures on an area at one time, we're still letting people take their vacation.
Mr. Chair, Member Zuby Wilson, if I may also add that particular phrase was added when we were in the pandemic, and President Rowley really needed the ability to extend it because so many people were really working through the pandemic in ways that made it hard for them to take their leave.
Mhm.
So once it was no longer needed, it was decided to remove it. Thank you.
And I would add, Member Wilson, that in retrospect, I wish we'd pushed harder to get people to take leave during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
Any other comments on this leave policy? If not, let us move on to the IT resources policy. Corey?
Thank you, Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley. Thank you for allowing me to present. Mason, will you share that? Thank you. So while we wait, I'll just introduce this policy. Acceptable use policies are really the cornerstone of any good set of IT policies. I don't know why we haven't had one all this time. So this is our, goal of getting our technology policies improved. We felt like we really needed to start here. All right. So, this really is a policy about outlining what is the acceptable behavior when using our IT resources. So we've outlined that. If you just go down to the process, Mason, we'll just skip right to process. We didn't want it to look too negative, because a lot of times these are like, don't do this, don't do that. So we wanted to kind of give it a positive spin. So section B outlines sort of in the positive how we want you to behave, be responsible, safeguard, be respectful, etc. Protect information, complete your cybersecurity training, which is very important that we do that. Report theft, lost, or unauthorized access immediately. And then section C, we couldn't help it. We had to say what's unacceptable. So sharing your logins, attempting to gain access, releasing confidential information, monitoring, scanning. I won't go through each and every one of these. We did put in a section about incidental personal use. I think it's hard to get around this, so we might as well address it. But we made sure to state that it can't interfere with, academic or work responsibilities, can't be something that costs money, or consume time, or be excessive, obviously, or violate any policies. And then we've always got to include a privacy and monitoring statement. We in IT, we don't monitor what people are doing, but we do have to log activity. And occasionally we might be monitoring, we might be looking for a problem and notice some activity. So we do need to put that there. And also we're often legally required to provide information about certain things. So we have to keep logs. There's the statement about privacy. You have no expectation of privacy from authorized college employees. We have a lot of requirements that might require us to provide IPRA information or turn over logs as needed. But certainly only authorized individuals do that kind of work. Then in section F, we have a lot of the statements about the rights and the responsibilities of SFCC. We might initiate a system or network forensic investigation, and this could be at the request of an HR investigation, or it could be an IT incident. And so we need to be able to do those things as quickly as possible often. What are some other key ones here? If we do see a problem, we have to be able to respond, and we do this. So for example, we notice a problem with a user's password, it's been stolen. We'll disconnect that user, call them, get them to change their password and reconnect them. In the event of a large incident, we might have to do that with a large number of accounts. So we need to be able to do these things: blocking traffic, revoking access, logging, monitoring, or disclosing information. And then we've got our public records statement, which is very key. And then user risks and violations. We wanted to make sure that users knew that if they were being negligent, we might hold them responsible. And if you're suspected of engaging in this any conduct that's prohibited, there will potentially be consequences for that. And so I guess with that, does anyone have any questions about this policy? Oh, one other thing I wanted to say, we wanted to renumber these, but we don't initially want to get rid of the existing 7.1. We've got a whole series of other policies going through that will replace different segments of the current 7.1. So that's just one thing to note. But we would like this to be number 1 in our list. So thank you. Any questions? Oh, and we did not get really any feedback from any of the governance group on this policy.
I had a couple of questions under unacceptable use under C8.
C8.
I'm just wondering, I took the class at the college on intellectual property and copyrights, and I think there's a lot more to it than most people are aware of. So
Yes.
are we confident that people that we're putting this policy together, that people even know whether or not they're violating it, or what would be our level of punishment for somebody who innocently did something they thought was okay?
Well, so that can depend on an external response. So, you know, in recent history, there have been a lot of apps that allowed people to share music. Although this isn't as common anymore, we would get a cease and desist order. So if it happened on SFCC's network, we would receive the cease and desist, and then we had to respond to it, and then we would have to go back to them and say, yes, we've responded. Typically, they accepted that as the response, that was okay. Now, it is very complicated, and that's why we have a whole separate policy about this. And, you know, I think it's an issue that we probably should provide more training around it. I know oftentimes librarians are really expert at this kind of stuff, so it's noted. We might just think about maybe providing some more information out to people about what this means. But when it comes to technology, a lot of times it's things like we had someone ask about showing a film on campus for entertainment. That has to be licensed. We can't just show an entertainment movie, even though they're widely available on Netflix. We're supposed to license those films. So yes, it's very broad, and also about copying book pages, et cetera, et cetera. So thanks for that question. I would primarily rely on policy 316 to give the better information, but certainly we have technology things.
Any other comments or questions?
Okay. My other question would be on G1 in terms of the liability. Somebody uses a device unsecured location like a Starbucks or an airport, and something happens, would we hold somebody liable for, what does liability look like? I mean, it potentially could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would imagine.
Yes. Is anyone from legal here? I'd hate to answer that question.
Well, this is only the first reading too, so we can
yes. Yes. But, certainly there are those drastic cases, but in the day-to-day response, it's typically, I guess that is actually a disastrous case now that I'm rereading what you're talking about, so I won't. Yeah, I'll consider that for the second reading, if that's okay. I'll talk to you. Okay. Thanks, Zuby. I appreciate those questions, or Member Wilson. Anyone else?
If no other comments, thank you very much, Corey.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. We now move on to any other board Board interests, comments, matters to raise?
Were we expecting another report?
Oh, if, let's see. Yeah, if somebody was going to come in.
I think I saw something in the messages.
Right. I thought it was going to be Katrin Allred, but she is actually just presenting to the executive team next week on something else. Not one. It was not a grant that I thought she was. It was one I thought she was presenting here, but it's not due yet, so she's not presenting that until later. She's just presenting with the executive team for approval first next week. So it will get to you, but it's not today. I apologize for holding up the meeting there.
Not at all. Thank you very much, Laura.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other business to be raised?
I look forward to seeing you all in person next week.
Yeah. We indeed, on the board retreat, we are meeting in person.
As long as my phone stops hanging out with phones with COVID.
Yeah. And if you wish to wear a mask, that's up to you. But we will be in 3D.
Yep, it's a long day with a mask.
Yeah. And our next governing board meeting will be on June 22nd. So, any other comments? Madam President?
No, sir, thank you. I just appreciate all of the approvals of our projects today, and we will keep you posted. One thing I want to add about the capital project is that we have to go before, I wouldn't call it a firing squad, but it feels like that sometimes, to get that in person in Farmington, to get that approved too. So it's not, I don't ever think of it as an easy process.
Right, yeah. So you just put on your bulletproof vest and go.
Yep, that's how we'll do it.
Okay, thank you all very much. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. And a second from Zuby.
Second.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimously approved. Good. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
See you all on the 2nd.